Hello there. It's been an exciting couple of weeks here at TELO with all kinds of stuff going on behind the scenes that we can't talk about yet, but there's three things that we'd like to highlight today, and they all start with S, so hang with me here. We're talking suspension and service and safety. But before getting into all that, we just wanted to highlight some of our favorite things going on in regards to events and talk about how fun it was to actually attend Plug and Play this year. Take a look. Today at TELO, we're at the Plug and Play event. Excited to meet with all kinds of fans, giving people test drives, giving people a taste of the dimensions of the TELO truck, and meeting with some investors, meeting with some potential partners that are interested in helping us mass produce our vehicle, and just having a great time. I can say from firsthand experience, it is so much fun to actually be able to introduce TELO to people for the first time in person and get their impressions on the dimensions and how practical and utility focused it can be. And we definitely generated a lot of interest, and it was really fun to see everybody's in-person reactions and answer lots of community questions. So we're going to be answering as many of the community's questions and concerns as possible across all kinds of different social media platforms. So whichever one you're most comfortable with, just look for TELO Trucks and we'll probably be there. Now, as far as the suspension of the TELO truck is concerned, I'm definitely no expert in this field, but we do have some incredibly talented engineers working on this, so let's ask them to see what kind of things are being prioritized in regards to the design and engineering. So what's your name and what do you do at TELO?
My name is Graham and I'm a mechanical engineer here working on suspension and structures.
Any relation to the Graham crackers?
No relation.
Okay. Fine. Well, what have you been working on for the past few months here?
I've been working on the suspension system because that was one of the first things that we needed to lock down to really design the rest of the vehicle and the chassis.
What kind of challenges arise when developing a suspension system for a vehicle of this footprint?
There's a lot of challenges, especially in the front where things are so tight and we're so trying to consider crash safety in every aspect of the design. Really big challenge to package everything with the motor and still get the performance characteristics that we wanted for the vehicle.
And what type of suspension does this vehicle use? I know a lot of other trucks are using air suspension these days that go up and down like crazy, but what made the most sense for this application?
There's a lot of suspension types and there's a lot of different varieties of each suspension type, but what we're using for these vehicles that we'll be building is a McPherson front suspension and a multi-link rear suspension. And we chose that suspension type because it's the dominant one that you'll see on a lot of vehicles on the road. Very easy to repair, and you can replace a couple $100 component, the strut, and regain a lot of ride characteristics after many tens of thousands of miles. So in that aspect, it's a great choice. But another big factor for why we chose it was simply packaging. The front passengers and the front driver sit so far forward in the vehicle. Other suspension types really wouldn't be compatible with the space requirements.
Makes sense. And what kind of suspension travel are we going to see?
Yeah, so we're going to have around 7 inches, if not more, on the front and rear. We're running coilover struts. Bag systems are really complicated and they're extremely failure prone. We've seen a lot of electric pickup trucks I won't name, but are kind of leaning on the road.
Yeah.
They have a lot of problems with it, especially because of the weight of EVs are typically higher.
Right.
So that even adds to the challenge of running air suspension. And we really think that for city driving as well as some kind of trail and off-road driving, it really suits coilovers.
So cost-effective design, still lots of travel, and repairable.
Exactly right.
Seems like it's checking all the boxes. That's pretty great. And is there anything specific about this system that you feel is like unique or little details that you put time into you want to highlight?
Yeah, definitely. Because of aerodynamics, there's a lot of high pressure, high energy air hitting the front of the suspension components. And we've spent a lot of time making those components aerodynamic. And that has huge gains for a coefficient of drag of the vehicle, which of course will determine vehicle range.
I didn't even think about that. Because of this wheel design, the aero of the suspension
super critical
is a lot more important than probably any other vehicle that covers it up.
Exactly right.
Wow, okay, you're thinking about the next thing and the next thing.
Just the packaging of the motor and the steering components is a really, really big challenge. Every single aspect of placing those is with consideration of crash worthiness and crash safety.
Well, Graham, this is a part of the vehicle no one gets to see. What are we looking at here?
This is a drive unit that has been integrated into the rear subframe of the vehicle. You can see all the suspension components here mounted to subframe, and this is really the core of the rear suspension system is this assembly here. What we're using here, what you're looking at here is these are the upper A-arms of your multi-link suspension, and there's multiple configurations of multi-links. There's two lateral links and a trailing arm, and you can see those barely underneath the drive shafts here, that kind of silver link. So a lot of work has been done to package all of this stuff as space efficiently as possible, because simply there's a lot of things to fit.
So does this play into how an electronic parking brake works versus how it works on a gas vehicle?
Yeah, exactly right. So our parking brakes, we have parking pawls that are integrated in the motor, and then we have an additional level of safety where we have electronic parking brake calipers that are on the rear. So this is actually, in addition to the system that Tesla uses, we have parking pawls integrated in the drive units, so we have a lot of security that when the parking brake's engaged, the vehicle's not going to move.
And I know you said there's a lot of differences between this prototype and the production variant. So what kind of things are going to be tweaked?
Yeah, a lot of things. So
Sure.
There's a lot more components that need to be mounted in the rear that you don't see just on this kind of skeleton test bed here. Additionally, there's going to be a lot more considerations of ride comfort, and we're adding a lot more bushings to really make the vehicle handle rough terrain a lot more comfortably.
Sweet.
In addition, the drive units are significantly more powerful than this vehicle ever had.
Oh, sweet. And I've been in this one. It's crazy fast.
More torque per wheel, and
jeez.
really good justification for that is you only have one gear on an electric vehicle.
That's
and
right.
we need to have the capability to do some decent towing.
And what kind of ground clearance are we expecting?
We're going to have 10 inches of ground clearance.
Wow.
And that is a very large number, and this thing's going to be able to take rocky terrain very well.
What's that translate to for the wheelbase?
The wheelbase is 111 and a half inches.
Wow.
And the track width is 64 inches. And so that's from wheel center to wheel center, both
Gotcha.
laterally and longitudinally.
Awesome. A lot of trucks have solid rear axles,
Yeah.
but we notice with this truck, it feels like each wheel has, independent travel and suspension. So
That's
is there a
exactly
reason
right.
for that?
We have a fully independent suspension, both front and rear. There's actually a large benefit of this for vehicles that are frequently on roads and even on loose traction terrain, like a gravel road, muddy road.
Sure.
In those instances, an independent suspension is actually going to be the desirable type. It allows each wheel on each side of the vehicle to be in the position it needs to be to maximize traction. That's actually not something that you always get with a solid rear axle. So this is like 10 degrees less of steering than the next vehicle.
Wow. So what's your turning curb to curb number going to look like?
It's going to be less than the Cybertruck for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I've driven one myself. Those turn pretty tight.
They have rear wheel steering, and we didn't think that was necessary.
Sure.
To get a very decent curb-to-curb
Wow.
radius.
Not to mention it's much, much shorter, so it's not going to feel like you're trying to spin a tank around on a street.
Exactly right. And the body doesn't overhang the front of the vehicle, which will actually limit your realistic turning radius when there's kind of high obstacles around you.
Is there any consideration into the crash safety aspects of the front suspension?
Definitely. So that's something that's at the forefront of our minds when we're designing this front suspension, that there's actually engineered brake points such that when there's a frontal crash, the suspension will move outwards and splay outwards as opposed to inwards towards the passenger compartment.
Smart. Well, thanks, Graham. I won't take any more of your time. That's enough talking with us. You got work to do, so
No worries. I
go
was
do
happy
it.
to talk with you.
What's going on next?
Now that the suspension has been all locked and finalized, we are deep into chassis validation.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll check back with you later.
Definitely.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Drew.
And as you can see, there's a lot of consideration in regards to service and safety in the suspension design, but it's more than just that. And that's why I'm really excited and happy to announce in today's video, addressing so many of the different questions we've got across our social media pages, that TELO is very much a right to repair focused company. In fact, one of the great side effects of making a vehicle that is able to utilize so many off-the-shelf components and pull from tier 1 suppliers is that many of the parts of the vehicle can be bought bought by pretty much anybody. It doesn't have to be proprietary stuff that only we have access to. So we're trying to make sure that many aspects of the design are as self-serviceable as possible, and you can work on this truck. We're definitely not trying to gatekeep anything and force you to get service through us or from us. We want to make sure that either individuals or third-party repair shops are able to work on this vehicle. And again, a really nice perk of making such a compact mobile vehicle design that can easily be loaded onto all kinds of different flatbeds and trailers because of how compact it is. The logistics of moving around this vehicle in the event that it needs to be worked on just becomes so much easier the more you think about the weight, the more you think about the off-the-shelf components. And even if we had to make service vehicles down the road, our first generation product would actually get the job done pretty well because we've got a ton of range, a lot of storage capacity, and we could bring out all kinds of different components with our own mobile service fleet if we want to take the on-the-spot service route down the road, which should be very plausible. There's many aspects of the TELO truck design that we will highlight in the future that we're specifically making so that it can be easier to work on yourself. Aside from any work going into the high voltage battery pack, pretty much every other aspect of the vehicle can be removed and worked on yourself, and we plan on detailing how to do so on different aspects of the vehicle in the future, and this channel will probably be a great resource for that into the future, so we can engage with the community and tell you guys exactly how to work on or replace different parts of the vehicle. Now lastly today, I really want to emphasize that safety is a cornerstone of not just our business, but of course our product. And there's definitely been a lot of misconceptions about safety out there, especially when it comes to people's love of big hoods. And the funny thing is, most vehicles on the road today that have these massive hoods on the front really just assume that that is pure unobtrusive crumple zone, when in reality, especially the combustion engine, it does not make for a great crumple zone. It's a lot of mass and it's a lot of metal that does not compress, and we're very much trying to break down that stigma that any type of large hood, which ironically ends up being far more dangerous for visibility and pedestrians, is necessarily a way to measure the safety of your vehicle. What we're building into our design is ensuring 14 inches of unobtrusive crumple zone, which means everything that crumples in the event of a collision can be moved downward or pushed outward, essentially any direction that's not inward towards the cabin. And of course, we still plan on having airbags on the inside and passing all federal crash safety requirements. This is achieved with a lot of proprietary technology that we can't dive too deep into, but there's also a lot of standard safety systems that you'll find on the most commonplace safe vehicles that are on the road today, like multiple energy absorbers made of aluminum that can crush down and absorb the majority of the inertia in the event of a crash, and as well as building in specific brake points to every aspect of the design, ensuring that nothing protrudes inward at occupants. I also just think it's worth mentioning that at least statistically, while a lot of people are concerned about head-on collisions, getting rear-ended, especially when it's not your fault, is absolutely the far more common collision, and there's safety aspects of the design we're building in to ensure whether you get rear-ended or hit from the side or T-boned, the vehicle will do everything it can actively with cameras and safety systems to prevent a crash, and also passively so that in the event of a crash, the vehicle keeps you as safe as possible. And at the end of the day, safety is not just important for passing federal requirements to get our vehicle out on the road legally, but it's also really important to our customers so that they feel comfortable and confident driving around our product, knowing that they're going to be safe no matter what the world throws at them. So we'll share as much as we possibly can without giving too much away about our safety system in the future. But if you guys have any more questions or things you'd love to dive more into, our engineers would love to get more into the nitty-gritty stuff. So just ask what you want to hear more about, and we'll do our best to keep you guys posted with everything going on here at TELO. Again, thank you all for watching, and we hope to say TELO again soon.